Hello, screenwriters and writers, and welcome to Writing for Screens, Writing My Novel Progress Report number 9. My name is Glenn Gers, and I do Writing for Screens here on this channel. I am a person who is a professional screenwriter for 25 years. I am retiring and on my way out of the business. I decided to try to leave behind some of the tricks and tools and skills that I learned as a professional writer, had to teach myself. It seems wrong that people have to teach themselves. And so therefore I thought I'm going to try and give others the things I had to figure out. So that's what I'm doing here. I come here, I've got 50 lesson videos. I call them lessons. They're 10-minute videos that I've tried to figure out a topic and give you what I can as far as process and skills and insights. The first 3 playlists on my channel is where you go to look for those. Each one has a thumbnail which tells you what the topic is, flashbacks, genre, character, stuff like that. I try to put stuff into terms of things you can try. They're not going to all work for you. Some will, some won't. Everyone has to figure out their own way of working and their own creative path and their own creative goals. So I'm not going to tell you how to do it right. I'm going to tell you things you can try to do it the way you want to do it and figure out your path artistically and professionally. See if it works for you to do things in a professional manner, or if it's better to do it simply as a personal artwork. Who knows? Only you can decide. But then, every week on Wednesdays, I come here live at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to talk about various topics. And now and then, I talk about the thing I am doing since my retirement, which is working on my novel. I am writing a novel. It's a historical novel. I started writing it 1996. I got the idea then. I've been trying to figure it out since then. I finally think I've got it, and I am going to share with you the process of what it's like for a screenwriter to write a novel. Let me do some quick hellos, and then I will get right into the stuff. Hello, Nathan. Me too. Hello, Sonia. I'm getting a lot of novel comments. Hello, Just Paul. Yes, thank you, Helene and Donna and fellow writers. Hello. Hi, Butte. Hi, Jean. Yay. And MC squared or MC2, depending. Doreen, hello. And Marcus and Najo. Oh, finally made it. Okay, Phoenix. Wow, we got a lot of people here. Hello. And Michael. Uh-oh, sorry about your back. You can always set me aside, come back another time. I won't be live, but you can watch the live streams 24/7 whenever is good for you. I recognize taking an hour out to sit and watch a live stream. Who can do that? All right, let's talk. Let's talk about what I am up to of late, which is the novel. Here's the first thing I did. I've been trying to just organize the work. I was reading a little article, like self-help article, about the fact that when you get messy, it's very often a sign of a mental distress, not mental illness, but just it's a sign that you're feeling like you're out of control, or that you're unable to process or prioritize or simply take on all the things you've got to do. And I was looking at my desk here, and I was like, whoa. I need to stop and organize and clear and get rid of some stuff so that I can focus, because that's the thing. And that include here, this folder, which is the folder I use with all my documents for this novel project. I've got, if you compare it to older versions, I'm getting it more organized. What I've done is I've divided. I've got different Scrivener projects for the text, for the research. So the thing is, the text, the research, they're getting big. They're getting piles and piles of words. So I tried to sort them out. What I did in the past couple of weeks is I've started to actually open up this text document and read through it. That was the first thing. Actually just read through the text I have already written, which is here. You can see that there's a lot of different files. Each file is like a section of the story. This is the epigraph. This is the little quote at the beginning of the book, which I found. Then the first section is sort of sketched out, and it's done in italics. But then I've got so it's like 5 or 6 pages. That's too long. I'm going to get that down. Then there's a title page, and then there's the beginning of the text. So I wrote some of this text 10, 15 years ago. And I remember getting this voice, getting the voice of the main character, because the book is told first person as a memoir written by one of the 3 main characters. And what I thought, like, I need to get this voice. I got this, the first 10 pages or so I've written, and they're not bad. And so I said, okay, now I know the voice, which means all the rest of this stuff is going to at least be in that voice. But as you'll see, like the first notebook, I've got, I don't know how many, this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. I've got 26 little sections. I'm not going to make each one a chapter. It's more like there'll be like a little white space and then a new section, I think. Because first of all, that's how, like, I don't think this guy wrote his notebooks, his memoir. He was just sort of writing them down in these composition books or school composition books. So I don't think he thought of chapters. So I've got 25 of those rough. Now, some of these rough are really rough, like this. That's all I got. I got this much, and then it's done. I didn't even, and some of this is not right. This is just the beginning sketchiness. So these, when I say I have 25 sections, I don't. What I have is an outline of all of these things. So, for instance, and I'm going to go back and forth, but to show you how this is the outline for this section of the book. And each one of these is an outline of a section. And as you can see, there's far more than 25. So I've got things that I haven't even sketched out. I'm going to go back and forth between the text and the outline so you can see. So here's the text. Here's the outline. Oh, can you see that? Look at that. So here's notebook 1 in the text. That's what I've got. And here's notebook 1 in the outline. So one of the things I'm going to do, the first thing I did here was I just read through what I've got. And like some of this, like here's what I've got for this section. Nothing. I got nothing here. But I put the section in because it's like the next phase is to create a document for every section in the outline. And then if I get to a blank one, I'm like, I'd better write something to go in there. That's what helps me to say, like, things to do. I want to be able to look through this column on the left, this list of scenes, and I think of that as my things to do list. Like I need to be, and I will color code them to mark them when I've got a good rough draft of every single scene. And so if I don't see that color there, like in this one, I've color coded them this pale orange. If I have a good idea of what this section is going to be about. Some of them have a lot of notes, some of them just a couple. And the reason that there's only just a couple is, first of all, it's a simple idea, but also I've got quite a bit of text on this. This is a lot of stuff I just pulled. I was like reading and research stuff, and I would see like, okay, barber, like there's a photo I had. I saw a photo of a street in New York, and there was a barber shop, and it said shave and a haircut for 15 cents. So I just started writing things down that I saw or read about or heard, because he's going to talk about what it was like for the first time in his life, having been a guy who's wandered the country but stayed to the small towns and small cities, to go to New York City. So that's what this section is, Starving in New York. It's about how New York is dazzling to him, but also hard, and his experience. Because in this section of the book, he is going to be a vagrant. He's going to be a homeless person who is wandering the city, but he can't go into a lot of places. He doesn't understand a lot of things. Then later, as the story goes on, he meets people and sort of steps up in class. He changes class. He changes, his fortunes improve, and he's able to go into stores and restaurants. He gets his own apartment. He gets friends who have their own, and so he will see the city very differently. So one of the things I have to make sure I say is, it's not the same city he will see later. That I want to be able to have the reader move through his experience of different versions of the world. So this section is just that one. And like I said, I got a lot of material here. It's not properly, I just threw down whatever I could think of. But I got a bunch. I got a bunch of stuff here. Look at all that. Describing what it's like for him to be a vagrant, homeless person in New York in 1936. Okay, so let me quickly check your check your comments. Let's see what's going on. Sonia, let me go back to my face so it's easier to see these. Okay, I'm writing. Mess has become the working titles. That's funny. Yeah. Here's the thing remember, everyone works differently. Some people may actually work best in a mess. I do not want to imply that anything I am going to talk about is in any way the right thing to do. What I certainly have noticed for me is that when my work documents get messy, it's a sign that I don't feel like I know what I'm doing, and that I personally can't write a sentence if I am feeling like I don't know what the context is, what the sentence is doing in terms of what it's about. What's like if I'm talking about this character wandering the city of New York, there's so much I could talk about. But the thing is, he hasn't experienced a lot of things. So I don't want to talk about art. I don't want to talk about the guy who we meet in the beginning is an outcast. He's a social outcast. And I want him to see everything as that. So that's what this section is about. So I know what the sentences are about because I understand, this is about coming to New York and feeling that New York is a big, overwhelming, but glamorous place. That he wants to, that he finds somehow, instead of him feeling, this is overwhelming, glamorous, and I have no place here, so I'm leaving. He feels stubborn and determined to stay, even though he can't survive like he can in smaller towns. And so he's actually, as I said, he spends several months here, and he's the name of the section is Starving in New York, because during the course of it, he's coming close to starving. That's the point of this story. So what I want to do is sort of establish him loving the city, but being pushed to desperation in this moment, because the story begins with him taking a very desperate move. He decides to pull a kind of con job fraud, which means pretending to be an artist. That's a bizarre thing to do. I need to motivate him to do that. I need to put him in the frame of mind where it's like, what the hell? I'll try it. The money is so dazzling, and the desperation is so great. So that's sort of what I'm doing. But it's very important that I don't say to any of you, if you don't clean up your desk, you can't write a book, because I don't know. I don't know you. I know that for me, when I sit down, if my desk, and it has been because of the holidays and everything else, I've got stuff stacked up. I found here, actually, this is funny. Okay, I have this folder. It's called Do This Now. So I leave that out on my desk, right? So every day when I come to my desk, I see Do This Now, which in theory should make me do it now, right? I found my Do This Now folder in a drawer. I had, at some point, some people were coming over saying, I took my Do This and I didn't want to leave it out. So I put it away. And I put it away and I didn't have it out for like a month. And so the things that I had to do this now, I opened it and I was shocked because there were things that deadlines had passed. So I'm trying to get back to where I sit down at my desk and there isn't a lot there. And one thing that is there is Do This Now. And therefore I am going to do what I have to do. Likewise, on my desktop, let's see if I can figure this out. Yeah. Okay. So I'm not going to show you my whole desktop, but do imagine this folder on my computer desktop, I leave open all the time. I have this little window open all the time so that when I sit down, I see it and I go, okay, do this now. This is your project. Don't, you have to do these other things. You have to pay these bills and you have to do whatever, but click on that thing, click on that. And I like it to be, I had to work to make it clean when I looked at it. I didn't have a lot of documents there, that it was like 4 or 5 key documents. And so it helps me to work to have that up on my computer all the time so that even when I'm not doing it, when I sit down in the morning, especially, I sit down and I look at it and I go, do it, do this now. And then I click it and I'm trying to keep it clean within so that I can say to myself, look at this. I have here a list of things. This is the text of the book. And it breaks down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these little sections, which are in the 90s that take place and then the rest is notebooks. Notebook 1, Notebook 2, Notebook 3, and Notebook 4. And each one of those has sections in it. And so, for instance, here I've got 1, 2, 3, whatever, how many sections of Notebook 2. And I've got some rough draft of the text for that. But if I go here to the outline and I go to Notebook 2, I have many more sections that simply I haven't even begun to write. So my first task in the next couple of weeks is going to be to go through, and I can go in order. I can say I'm going to start here, and I'm going to go here, and then here, and then here, and I'm going to take what is in this section, and I'm going to write a rough draft of that in this document. And so eventually, everything that I want to do will have a place in the text. I will have written a rough, even if the rough draft, like here, it just says, Tom goes to Billy's house unannounced, waits until afternoon, first time he's been, like, if I just write, Tom goes to Billy's house unannounced, at least then I'll think, okay, what was it like, okay, it's January 1st in the story, it's cold, he's wandering around on the street waiting until he feels like it's okay, whatever it is, I'll start to describe what it's like, what her house is like, what the street is like, and what it was like for him to knock on the door. And then make sure that I've just got some rough words. Because the most amazing thing happens if you have really rough words. Like in this case, I actually have done that. That scene, Tom confronts Billy and she was on New Year's Day, because something happened on New Year's Eve. They slept together. So now he says, I didn't sleep at all. I watched New Year's frigid daylight creeping into the world, brand new and dirty. Ooh, cool. Nice writing, Glenn. The point is, he's giving a sense of having stayed up all night waiting. He's waiting to go see her. I waited until afternoon to try to see her. I'll probably cut this. I went to Charlie's loft where he was hungover. She had already left. I don't know. I have to think about that. But the point is, I wrote this rough draft, and I need to make sure that I have some rough draft for every single one of these many sections, because a lot of them I don't. I don't have any idea of what words are going to say that. So that's my next task. So my first task was cleaning this up enough that I could make this list of scenes, and then to go through. I've spent the past 3 or 4 months going through this outline and making sure that every one of those scenes, every one of those scenes, the process is these are notes for me to talk to you about. There's something there that I understand, that I know how to write, and now the next step is start to do the rough draft. I'm going to briefly look through your comments so that we can talk. How many outline scenes do you have? Oops, sorry. I'm not sure. I haven't counted. I will. But the answer is, just offhand, it's about 20 or 30 for each of the 4 notebooks. Actually, the first notebook is longer than the last notebook. Things start to move faster, and so I think the last notebook has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's got about maybe 15 to 20. So the first one has like 20 to 30. By the end it's probably about 100. Probably about 100 scenes total. Cool, thank you. Yeah, I am honestly. Here's the thing about these live streams, the novel progress ones. I am really not planning or organizing these thoughts to you. I am just telling you where I am and sharing it. I do think that might be helpful for those of you who are working on novels. Hi, She Breathes Gold. I am happy that you're catching me too. Okay, The Novice. Okay, interesting. Okay, this is good. Good. Let me get to that in a second, Novice Writer. I am really, really happy to get into that. Let me just quickly scan, see what it is. Is everything dated? In the sense that I've been going through the outline, and yes, I've got a rough date. For, like, this will be in August of 1936. This will be in December of certain things happen on certain dates, very few, mainly on New Year's Eve. That's like New Year's Eve is actually a key point, story point in a couple of sections as the years go by, because there's a New Year's Eve party that they always go to. But the answer is yes, eventually I want the outline to have a date, not a day, but like March 1936, or because then, yes, I will check what's happening in the world at that time. I'm going to do that later. But to say like, oh, this was when, there was a big baseball scandal, or this was when, Hitler took over Czechoslovakia or something, and that will feed into it. But I don't want to get too lost in that, because that's background to the main thing, which is the story. Hello, Willie. Nice to see you. Glad you are here. Dated from the character diary. Yes, I have still some organizing to do to make sure the date is on everything, but I actually do have, hold on, I have made a chronology. Okay. I have made a document which is just chronology. I'm going to open that up for you. It's going to be the wrong size and shape, so let me do a little size. Okay, so I did a chronology. Here, let me make that smaller. 200%. There we go. This is anything that's in art history, I put in this salmon color. The story stuff I put in black. History events, like regular history, I put in green. So what I'm eventually going to do is like here in October 1929, which is before our story starts, but I wanted to know that Billy was in college. Tom, I think, is going to be in the orphanage. I'll figure out where everybody is. So I do have the chronology, and like if in my research I see, the WPA moved their offices or opened a gallery in this date, and April 36 is during our story period, I just put it in the chronology. So I've got a lot of years. Some of them I have a lot of art history. Some of them I have story. Eventually I will meld those together. But right now I just wanted to put them in one place and take them out of the story notes because it was getting confusing. And I wanted to be able to just look at my story. If I want to check a date, I can go to the chronology. That's how I did that. Hello, Hasko, and hello, T. Trent. Okay, I think I'm about. Oh, let me make this readable. I'm thinking about to get a cleaner version of my notes and rough draft soon, but it's really a first really large project. So short story. Yeah. Okay. Sonia said the right thing here. It's trial and error. You have to figure out your best system. The system that I am using is just the one that I developed. I mainly developed it for screenwriting, but then I adapted it to novel writing. And so the answer is, for me, this is helping me. I still trial and erroring it myself. For a while, I thought, what if I got it all into one document? What if I had all the notes and outline and all the text? And it was too much for me. So by separating them out, it helps me. Different people are different. Some people write, basically write in the outline until it's the text, or I don't know. But it's trial and error. Figure out what works for you. I've said this in one of my other videos. I think it's, let me see. Pretty sure it's this one. I believe create a ritual. I talk about some writers I have heard about because I know that, for instance, Nabokov, the Russian novelist, who became an American novelist, kind of. But he wrote on index cards. He wrote novels, and he would write so that he was writing in a paragraph space, and he would keep the novels like in rubber bands, packs for his chapters in a shoebox kind of thing. He was like but it helped. He could do it. I don't know. I couldn't do that. But then you get other people like Jack Kerouac who just sat down. He literally took a roll of telegraph paper, because telegraph paper was not cut into sheets. It was in a continuous roll. And he got a roll of telegraph paper and put it in his typewriter. And he just typed without ever stopping because he could just keep rolling it. He never had to change pages. And he took a lot of drugs, and he supposedly wrote some of his books that way. Everybody's different. Okay. Doreen asks, are the notebooks memoirs more like diaries or mini novels? Yeah, they're not diaries. He is writing his memoir. He doesn't plan to do anything with, like, having written it, he just leaves it in a trunk. The whole structure of the story is that we are seeing in these interchapters the discovery of these notebooks in this trunk in an abandoned house, because he has been taken off to an old age home because he's had a stroke. So we're intercutting the fate of his memoir, what happens to those notebooks, with the contents of the notebooks in the 4 separate notebooks. He is writing them as a memoir. He is writing them as a story, and he's very self-consciously got a kind of Hemingway-esque literary style. He wants to write it. He's read a lot of American literature. So it is not a diary. It's intended to be read. He just never did anything with it once it was written. Okay. Hi, Mark Burton. Happy New Year to you. I'm very, very sorry. Sorry about your mother. That's great. Mark, I am very glad that she is doing well, and I'm glad that you are here. Remember, if you can't make it live, it's okay. I mean, I love to chat with you guys, but I don't want anyone to mess up their life trying to catch me live when you can just watch the playback. Then if you have a comment, just put the comment in the comments. I'll answer it if at all possible. So far, I don't think missed a comment. Anyway, there we go. Hi, Darian. Hi, T. Trent. Yes. Yes, Mark. We are. Our thoughts are with you. Okay, so let's go back to the novice writer, because he had a question. Okay, I am taking questions. How do you make sure your tone is consistent from scene to scene? especially in scenes where the mood changes. So like lighthearted scenes in otherwise serious work. That's a good question. I'm asking more for novels, like with the prose, how to keep that consistent, especially in scenes that break away from the primary tone of the book. This is an excellent question. Obviously, there is no right answer to this. My answer is, and this partly is because for me, I feel pretty comfortable with different voices. In other words, if I read if I read Nabokov or P.G. Wodehouse or Raymond Chandler, they have very distinctive writing voices. They may not be writing first person, but they still have a distinctive writing voice. And I think everyone does. Hemingway has a very distinctive writing voice. Thomas Wolfe, Virginia Woolf. So the thing for me is, first of all, try and figure out what the voice is for this work. In theory, like some people, they write the same voice every book. Some people, you change voice to fit the book. That's how I'm thinking of doing this. So my answer is, in my first experiments, with which I have shown you the text of, I wrote as much as I could. There were sections I couldn't get, just trying to get into the writing, trying to do it. And I discovered the voice. I found it. Like when I wrote the first page, let's see. Okay, so this voice is different from let's see where we are. Okay. There were naked women painted all over the inside of the old shack. That's very simple, declarative. The thing that's interesting is what's being described. And I thought I wanted it to be very storyteller plain. There were naked women painted all over the inside of the old shack. Okay, the words, the style is deliberately simple, plain. Other stuff too, windows and bottles and skyscrapers, but mostly it was women, and a lot of them were naked. I can hear that voice. It's a storyteller voice. He's picking a detail and telling you plainly. Now, that voice. So I just started by trying to think. I knew the scene I wanted. I knew that there was idea of this old abandoned shack, one-room house in the woods, and this kid breaks into it. He actually is a pyromaniac, and he's planning to burn it down. But first he breaks into it to check it out, and he's sort of knocked out because this thing is crazy. There's paintings on the walls and on the ceiling. And so I wanted to describe that, and I thought I wanted a hooky first sentence. And I thought, there were naked women painted all over the inside of the old shack. That's okay. Why? Where is this old shack? Who is seeing it, etc., etc. So I wanted a hooky kind of but simple voice. When I start the notebooks in Tom's voice, he says, it's very, very short and simple. I have always been a thief. Never felt wrong about it. Okay, that's very conversational. So the answer is, as far as the question of how do you keep that voice consistent, first you have to get the voice, learn the voice, choose the voice. In this particular case, I just like the idea of I have always been a thief, real plain, boom. And it's also got I wanted a little hook there, oh, this person's a thief and he's not ashamed of it. So that voice, once I nail it, and I don't think you can nail a voice down. You can't choose it. You can't understand it until you write it. For me, writing these paragraphs, I've always been a thief. Never felt wrong about it. I was never given a damn thing in this life, and after a while, I figured out that nothing was really mine unless I took it. Okay, that's a very, partly it's like an F. Scott Fitzgerald-y, autobiographical thing. I wanted to be very clear. This person is talking about their experience, but I also wanted him to have a certain wise guy street. He's a street hustler. That's his character. He's going to learn to be a painter and an artist, and he's going to learn to be a lot of different things in the course of the story. But I want to make clear that the core of this kid is as an orphan who ran away from the orphanage and lived on the streets for 5 years before he met these painters. So that's the person I have in mind. So I knew he couldn't be very Britishy, ornate writing. He had to be simple. Even though he's self-educated, he's not. His voice would be plain. So the answer there is, I found the voice by writing it. I do not know. I mean, the only way that I can think of that you would find a voice without writing it is to read it. Like to say, if I, like P.G. Wodehouse, he's a British writer of comic novels. They're amazing. His style is very distinctive. I can imagine, and I know people who have said, I'm going to write in that style. So then you just read a lot of that and you get that. And then you get the voice in your head. And you may not be conscious of how it works. You just feel it. Or you may be very specific. I want to keep my sentences simple, or I want to keep my sentences complex and long. Those things could either be technical or just instinctive. Either one is fine. The main thing is to start to learn the voice. And then, if I'm going to write a funny scene, how would that voice be funny? So you see what I'm saying? The idea is, how do you keep it consistent? The idea is that you understand the voice. And the voice comes from, even if it's a third-person narrator of the author, is that person looking down on his characters, or is he very empathetic to them? That will change it. Is he, or she, is this voice something that is very in the mind of the character, or is it looking at them from outside? Is the voice, so you make those choices with the voice, and then once you get used to it, and this is only available to you with practice. You can't intellectualize it. You have to do it. The more you do it, the more you say, I see how that, I know now that this voice is going to spend some time discovering painting, the art of painting. He's going to be going to museums and stuff, and he's going to talk about what that did to him emotionally, and how it changed how he saw life. But now I know that his voice, and I know that he can get kind of poetic because this person loves that kind of thinking, but he would only write it still in his voice. I hope that that's making sense. Let me see where we are. Okay. So I'm just checking, did the novice writer... Okay, novice writer, let me know if that's helping you. Or if it's not making sense. Because sometimes it's like, yeah, that makes sense to me, to Glenn, but not clear to me, to you. But I think the main thing is, I do not know of any way to solve most writing, style problems, without actually writing text. Some of it you'll get wrong, some of it you'll get right, and you'll only know that by reading it and then starting to polish it and rewrite it. Okay, let's see where we are. I'm going to just do some comments. Okay. Michael says, I went through tons of notes to help me write a short piece of dialogue. Yeah, sometimes you just have to try it. This is sometimes you just have the gift of a voice. I find myself, when I watch a TV show and there's distinctive style, there's a big difference between Downton Abbey and Fargo and I don't know, whatever it is, Breaking Bad. They have a style. They have a verbal style. I find myself talking like whatever I have recently been reading or watching. I tend to mimic voices. I can't do it as a person, as a performer. I can't do imitations, but as a thinker and writer, I tend to be able to switch voices very easily. That's not to say that you have to do that. I'm saying that happens to be one of my talents, my skills. If you don't, then you have to spend some more time thinking about it to say, okay, I'm going to make a conscious decision, short sentences or something, whatever, or reference. I'm going to refer to a lot of pop culture or whatever it is that clicks for you that you can say, okay, this is a method I will use. Okay. Thank you. Whenever I write, I use your advice on the 6 points, who want what they want, etc. It's helped a great deal. Yay, that is great. I feel the same way. Okay, Goldie, 1 of 2. Glenn, speaking of outlines, you always say use what you have. I've outlined Q2 and Q4, the beginning and end of the novel, but the middle is a mystery. Okay, how can I use what I have to work both forwards and backwards to get that middle part done? Because now I'm coming up blank. This is a cool question. This is a good, meaty, technical question. The answer is use what you have in the sense that you know the beginning and end. So you're not necessarily working backward or forward. You are saying what is missing to get from A to B. Like if the, and I don't know what your A and B are, or A and Z are, but if the end is going to be, a tragic loss, what are the things you need to have to make that feel tragic or to make the circumstances happen? You'll start to find yourself coming up with beats, scenes, ideas. Like, at some point we have to realize that this guy, is in debt over his head. At some point we have to realize that this character is in love with that character. So then you have to think, okay, what's the scene? It's always about what's the scene. By the way, you should check out this video, Process of Questions. I will put a link to these videos I am mentioning in the description after I am done performing here. About 10 minutes afterwards, I will post, the description will change, and it will have these links so that you can see them. Anyway, the answer is, that's how I would do it. I would say, okay, like what, and then also, seriously, you should think about this. Set pieces is a really good way to think about how to get from A to Z. If you have A and Z, but you don't have the stuff in between. Watch that video on set pieces, because the point of set pieces, in a screenplay, there's, 8 to 10, 6 to 8, I don't know. In a novel, there could be 30. This is really important. Novels and screenplays are very different, and the rules are much looser for novels. But no matter how many you have or how they are defined, the set pieces in a novel will be like the set pieces in a script, in that there will be certain turning points or moments that are very rich in the thing that this novel does. In my novel, some of the set pieces are going to be moments with the main character summarizes a leap in their understanding of the world. For instance, there's a section, this character starts as an outcast, as a hobo and a street criminal. And because of this fraud he's engaged in, this con game, he is hanging out with this group of artists in New York City in the during the Depression. This group of artists is very self-consciously arty and stuff. And our main character has this section when he realizes you can be an outcast in society. In other words, that there is a role within society of outcasts. These artists are self-consciously and socially outcasts. And they have formed a group or a society, mini society within it. So this guy who feels antagonistic to society. And that's what that opening paragraph of the story is establishing. He's saying, I feel like I was never given anything in life, so I have to steal. I have to be outside of the world, and I just look for open windows and I grab stuff. I look for drunks and I take their wallets. He's a thief. And at a certain point in the story, he's going to say, this is a whole bunch of people who are also outcasts, but they are they feel like outcast is a part of society. That's a role in society. And he begins to join that group. It's one of the things he loves about art, is it gives him this place in society without being normal, without being, all those things that he can never be because of how he feels about himself and the world. That's going to be a set piece, that discovery, the writing of that. To me, that's a major piece. So what I'm saying about that is, in my outline, I could say, I'm going to need a point when he confronts the person he loves, or when he runs away from the situation. You start to put those, and those become like markers in your middle. And in the middle, you start to say, okay, now I've got 6 things. And then the question is, well, how do I get from thing 4 to thing 5? And you'll think about all the questions. So keep asking questions, Goldie. That's the answer. And whatever you do, think in scenes. Oh, this is a good one. Think in scenes. That's a good video to look at. Now, a scene in a novel is different than a scene in a screenplay, but it's still true. There's sections. Just like in my outline, I've got scenes. Some of those scenes are going to be longer or shorter. Some of them are shaped as little memories, and some are descriptions of dramatic events. But I know that each one is its own little section, a scene. And that's really, really, really important. I do want to talk briefly about this concept. Let me see if I can show you. Boo-boo. Okay. Couple of things, and then I will get into it. Yeah, no, she already talked about use what you have. This is interesting advice. The answer is, but I think, Haskell, that Goldie's talking about a technical issue. Is that I know what I know where I start and I know where I end, but I don't understand the technical process of getting from the answer from one to the other. And the answer is you break it into scenes. You think what scene, and if there's 5 scenes or 50 scenes, doesn't matter. The point is it's going to be steps. And if you can narrow down to individual actions or insights or moments, start to put those in, then you'll find that you need stuff in between those, and then it'll fill in. Okay. Bada bada boom, bada bada bing. Let me talk briefly about. I better answer these questions first. What is your view of conflict in stories? Does every scene have to achieve change through a conflict, obstacle, or can a scene drive the narrative through revealing information? Yeah, obviously. And I don't mean this but yes, no. Conflict. I've actually done a live stream. I'll try and find it and put it in the link about this idea of every scene has to have conflict. That is not true. It's not even true of screenplays, which is where you hear that. Screenwriting advisors are like, conflict. Not true. And I did a whole video on how that's not true. Conflict. I will see if I can find that video and link to it. But the answer is no. Scenes can be about other things than conflict. They have to be about something. But especially in a novel, a scene can be just a description of a time and place. It could be a moment of insight. I'm going to have some scenes that are just summaries about what it's like to be having an affair, but there's no conflict. It's about these people actually meeting every once in a while, cheating on one of their lovers. And that's going to be just a summary of a feeling of a series of events without any conflict at all. Conflict is not necessary. Having something, it's like I can write that scene because I know this is a summary in which this person is trying to explain to us what it was like to have an affair, to be cheating. And the affair actually goes through several sequences, so there's several scenes in which the affair started like this, and it was very passionate. But then the affair became a place where we could sort of vent our feelings, but not always making love. And then it became talking about their memories. So I get into the memory. Those are all scenes of the affair. And each one has its own little section, but none of them are conflict. Okay. For a novel, you have to consider the person. Is the voice a first-person narrative? Yes. When it comes to the question earlier about how do you get the voice and keep the voice, the answer is, by the way, another way to phrase that answer for the novice writer is anybody's voice can take on any topic. Sorry about the gardener outside, if you can hear that. There's somebody across the street there blowing leaves. Like if you have a very stuffy voice, like you're, for whatever reason, you're telling a story in a very starchy, stuffy, conservative voice, and they want to describe something that is outrageous and obscene, they will describe it in a stuffy way. Whereas a person who's like if it was Lenny Bruce, they would be like, oh, I love this, If there's a stand-up comedian who enjoys outraging, they would like savor the detail, the crudeness of it. So the answer is any voice can take on any topic. What you do is think, how would this person, as Gene said, how would this person view this thing? And that's how you change tones. Sometimes they can rush, sometimes they can slow down. It's all, but the main thing is that if your narrator is a character, then you know a lot about them as a character. If not, you have to choose the personality of your narrator, of your voice. And once you've chosen that, you work through that. Do the notebooks have sketches? No. That would be cool, and perhaps in another book I will do something like that. I set myself the task of describing something visual. That's a lot of the point of the novel, is the verbal capturing of non-verbal experiences. That's a challenge I gave myself. Holly W. Hi, Holly. Did you outline for your novel completely first, or outline and draft at the same time? Okay, here's what happened. I roughly outlined it first, back in the 90s. And then I thought I kind of had it, and I said, I got to write it. I got it because of these questions. I've got to find the voice. I don't quite know how to do this until I get the voice. So I started to just write the scenes that I knew. But I did have an outline of all the major events. And I wrote, it's probably 50 pages, as you see, that text documents are things I wrote 20 years ago. And I got very excited to identify the voices, the two voices, the narrator's voice and the little intersection voice. But then I found I couldn't figure out the rest of the outline. So I kept putting it aside for years and years. Then when I picked it up again about 2 years ago, yes, that's when I formed this outline. This outline is every single scene completely. Let's take a look. Every scene of every notebook, I have written something. In this one, like this is a big one. This is a scene where I've got a lot of stuff that they're going to be talking about. In this one, all I got is this, but that's okay because it's only a bit of a sequence. It's a small scene, and another scene. The other scenes are big, but every single scene, I thought, what's happening here, and I wrote it down in the outline. So that the answer is yes. I have outlined. I did a rough outline. I thought it was enough. I started to write it. It wasn't enough, but I got the voice, and then I went back and I outlined every single scene so that when it comes to writing, I will have the voice and I'll know what the scene has to accomplish, and I'll stick to that narrow task. And that's how you build up a pile of scenes. Okay. Gene says, I have many personas now as I age. I bet some young writers can mine your personal experiences to come up with an error. Yes, I think that's true. Any voice you write is partly you. It may not be the you that goes out in the world, but it's the you that can imagine being and thinking like the person that voice is. It's also everything that you have seen or read in that style, because you're never going to write a voice that you have never heard of. Somewhere in there, you've heard that voice. It may be just people you know on the street. It may be books you've read from 500 years ago. Whatever it is, you're compiling all these possible voices. We are all collecting voices all the time. And you should read a lot. The more you read, the more possible voices you'll have to work with. If you write what you think is a complete outline, what do you do if your draft hits an obstacle? You stop and solve that problem. That always happens. I mean, on a daily basis, every time you think you've got it, but then there will be more. Actually, this is one of the things I wanted to talk to you about. In doing the outline, Here, let me show you my note to talk to you about. The process of going through the outline, I keep going through the outline and saying, like, do I have this scene? Do I understand it? Have I got? But I'm not solving everything. It's just getting it to where I recognize it as the shape and purpose of the scene. Then I go through it again, looking at time, as we said. Then I go through it again, looking for the structure of the compare, like, what is this scene compared? How does this scene bunch up, put up against the other scenes? And that's what I do. I go through it over and over again, just looking for pieces until, and very often I'll be like, okay, I know that he's going to confess his love to her. I don't really know how. I don't need to know that now. That will come in the writing. That will come in the moment, and I may go back and forth and try different things. You don't need to solve every problem. You need to get enough solved to feel confident when you start the day's work that you know what you have to do. That's how I work it. Everybody's different. Some people, they figure it out as they go along. They don't outline at all. I am not saying you have to do it this way. I am saying, for me, the idea of not solving everything, but getting it to where I recognize the shape and the purpose of the scene. Shape being who's doing what, what's happening. Is this a case where, like, when somebody meets somebody and they get insulted by something they say and they hold a grudge for the rest of the story? So the shape of the scene is these people coming together and one insulting the other. That's the shape. The event, the point. Okay. Your answer was so much better than I anticipated. I mean this in the best possible way. Thank you. Okay. No problem, Hasko. That's fine. Killian. It may sound funny, but one of my main goals in the book I'm writing is just to make each scene as visual for the reader as possible, to make them feel like what I'm saying, see what I'm saying in HD. Yeah, yeah, whatever. Everybody will find for themselves the little secret personal challenges. That's the thing. For me, painting is an art form that I've been very interested in, but never really pursued. I did it when I was in high school, and then I stopped. Because I was doing too many art forms. I was trying to be a writer and filmmaker and a painter, and it was just too much. So I said, I'm going to give up painting. But I love painting. My mom was a painter when I was growing up, and painting meant something to me. And so when I happened to come upon this story idea about someone who is essentially scamming painting, it clicked for me as like, that's going to be cool because I can talk about this mysterious thing. That's a personal challenge to me, but it's going to become a quality of the book that anyone who reads it, the people who like hearing about art, are going to be into it. And the ones who don't, maybe they'll like it because the romantic story and the drama between the characters is interesting, or maybe it won't be for them. Even the old-timers like Dostoevsky had problems with voice and invented Crime and Punishment. Yes. Or like Dickens often writes, like he'll write a book, like Bleak House is written in two different voices. There's a third-person narrator, and then there's a whole bunch of one of the main characters. It's in her voice. I don't think the sections in her voice are that great. They get a little annoying, but, it's cool. How confident are you that you'll stick to the main narrative? Very confident. I am. This is the great thing. I feel I now know I can write this because I have a list of scenes, and as you will have seen in my videos, like hold on, let me show you. Fear of writing. One of the things that helped me to get over feeling afraid or unable to write was recognizing that if you have a set of small tasks, and each scene, no matter how complicated a scene is, it's still just a scene. It's just like you can get it. And also, no matter how complicated and the potential of a scene is, when it comes down to it, you're going to find that you hit a limit, it's like, yeah, that's all you can fit in here. It's okay. This scene is just not going to have every single idea in the world. It's just going to be these two people in this moment doing this thing. That's when you know you can write it. So the reason I do the outline is because that way I can look and say, I don't have to write this whole book. I just have to write this one scene. Tomorrow, I'll write another scene. But today, all I have to write is a scene where one guy watches the other guy paint pictures. That's going to be the scene. And in doing that, in that particular scene, I know Tom, the main character, has met this painter, and he thinks this painter, Charlie, is insane. He thinks he's a nut. And then he watches him paint, and he goes, oh my God, he's really talented. And so he begins to trust that he can work with him on this scam. That's the scene. The point is to describe him, and I have to think of it exactly what he's painting, and how I'm going to describe it, and then that scene will be done, and I'll write the next scene. Then, as long as I know that, I know that I can write it, and that's why I personally have outlines. Without that, yes, it would be who knows what I would write. Okay. Helene said, I did the same thing. I thought I could just start writing, but there was still so much missing. Since then, I'm only outlining. Yes. However, without the writing the patches of stuff I could write, I wouldn't have the voice. And I need to know the voice to understand the story. For me, I needed to understand that voice. When I got that voice, I could stop and outline the rest. But without that voice, I would never have been able to figure out the outline. So, as a screenwriter, did you feel writing fast avoids burnout? No, for me personally, what avoids burnout is not doing too much in any one day. If I know that I can watch TV and make dinner and take the evening off, and in the afternoon I'm going to be doing chores and taking in the dry cleaning and rolling up a carpet to take to the trash. We just got a new rug. So that's on my. When I get done with this, I'm going to go fold up the rug so that the trash can pick it up. That means that I know that in the morning I'll do my writing and then I'll stop. And the next day I'll do more. And that's what keeps me from burning out. Thank you so much, Jean. That's really nice. Erica, I don't know if you're here, but Erica asked a question about structure. I will answer you, Erica, in email. But Erica said, I've got this idea for, let me see if I can, hold on. Sorry, I printed it out so I could read it to you. I'm outlining a buddy story and weighing whether to use 2 or 3 buddies. Although the third character would allow me to explore different personality aspects and help with the plot, I am afraid her presence would weaken the importance of the other 2. In cases such as this, would 3 buddies be a crowd? Important question. Is it a book or a movie? In a movie, still 3 is not a crowd, but one of them is going to be less important. And that's cool. That's okay. You can do that. But the reason I want to bring this up in this live stream is because in novels, anything goes. There are no good rules. I do not know of any rule that you can't find a novel that has broken that rule. The reason I want to talk about that here is because there are very, very strict limits to screenplay writing that in novel writing, this just doesn't exist. You never know. You have to figure it out for yourself with novels. With screenwriting, yes. If you have 3 main characters, maybe one of them is going to be slightly less. It's hard to say. It's an interesting thing. You balance it. Now, there's a movie just came out called Past Lives. It's a beautiful romantic story about this a married couple and the woman's best friend from childhood. So there's 3 main characters, and it moves between them. Everyone kind of gets shortchanged, but everyone also gets deeply felt. So the point is, there's a movie with 3 main characters, and you need all 3 for the story to work and for the insight to work. So it's possible. But if you're doing a buddy story and one of the buddies is a little less important than the others, that's also good. There's no rule about it, but in screenplays, you do want to watch out. You'd only have so many scenes. in a novel, who knows? Anything is possible. Okay. Okay. Thank you so much. I am so glad that you guys are enjoying this. It's really helpful to me. I'm going to sign off, and I will see you again next week. Get back to screenwriting stuff, and then we'll do another one of these novel things in a couple of weeks. Okay. Go write something.